Hi guys, welcome back to Canada Top to Bottom. Today's show is all about NOC codes, National Occupational Classifications. Might sound quite technical, but it's actually quite important if you want to move to Canada. And it's the biggest news in Canadian immigration right now. There have been some big changes to the NOC codes. They came into effect on November the 16th of this year.
We've been talking about this for a while, and we just want to clarify exactly what the changes are and how they may or may not affect you. So what are NOC codes? They are the government's way of classifying occupations or grouping them into categories so that for immigration applications or temporary residence applications, people's occupations can be classified in order to give them points. And these points could be with regards to your skill level, the duties you perform, the education you require to do that job. For example, it could put you into a skilled worker category or a semi-skilled worker or a low-skilled worker, for example. So the big changes that have happened recently, the classification was NOC 2016. It's now been changed, upgraded, given a complete overhaul to NOC 2021. And what we're going to talk about is the big changes and what that means. So first of all, NOC 2016 used a 5-category skill level, which was 0, A, B, C and D. And 0 was a management position, high-level position, and all the way down to D, which were unskilled positions, so and everything in between. NOC 2021 is now using, instead of a 5-category skill level, it's using a 6-category skill level, and they are called TEER categories, which is TEER, and they are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And the TEER stands for training, education, experience and responsibilities. So it makes sense. You are now going to be classified on the training you need, the education you need, the experience you have and the responsibilities in that job. The one other big change is that occupation codes used to be 4 digits, they're now going to be 5. So a lot of them are essentially the same. It hasn't been completely changed. A lot of them are essentially the same, just with a new name. So what was previously skill level 0 is now tier 0. Skill level A is now tier 1. Keeps it simple. But the next categories are the important ones. So jobs which were previously grouped into skill level B are now going to be in tiers 2 and 3. So what was B is now being split into 2 categories, tier 2 and tier 3, which essentially means, this is the most important change and the thing that could make a difference to you, is that a number of jobs which were previously classified as level C, so under the threshold needed for express entry applications, have now been promoted and have been moved up to tier 3. Okay, so this means that some occupations, not all occupations, we'll talk about those, which ones they are in a moment, which used to be classified as lower skilled in skill level C, have now been promoted and are now moving into tier level B, which means that they are now eligible, those particular occupations are now eligible for some immigration programs which they weren't eligible for previously. And that is where the really good news comes in. They've moved up the skill levels. So there are 16, that's the key number, there are 16 occupations which used to be classed as lower skilled, which have now been promoted and are now in the new tier levels, and which means that they are now eligible for express entry and some provincial nominee programs.
So there are 16 occupations which were previously not eligible for most immigration or temporary residence programs, but they now are. We'll put a list of the occupations on screen. I'll also copy and paste it into the description box below. So have a look on there if your occupation is there. You may now be eligible for a program which prior to this change in rules you were not eligible for. So potentially great news if you have the right experience.
So for example, a correctional service officer or a nurse aide or a pharmacy assistant or an esthetician, those people who had experience, even if it was 20 years experience in those occupations previously, weren't eligible to apply for express entry because the the categorization of their occupation wasn't high enough. Now it is. So that's a brilliant outcome for people who've got experience in those occupations. So it feels like a really good move in the right direction. A lot of these jobs, these occupations are in demand in Canada, which is why, presumably, they have been promoted. They're in demand across Canada. So it's really good that they're now eligible for many immigration programs. So who will the changes affect, and does it impact you? Anyone who currently has a permanent residence or a temporary residence application in progress, or who is considering applying for a program, especially those whose occupations were kind of teetering, borderline of skilled or semi-skilled, it won't affect you if your work experience is in management or professional occupations, because you would have already been eligible anyway. It's for people who are on that, perhaps on that borderline, on that cusp of skilled, semi-skilled. So the changes came into effect as of November the 16th. So if you have a profile in the Express Entry Pool and you received an invitation to apply before this date, November the 16th, 2022, you submit your application using the old system. You don't do anything with the new system. But if you receive your invitation to apply after that, so November the 16th up until now and continuing into the future, you have to apply using the new NOC codes. And it's important to understand that if you currently have a profile in the Express Entry Pool, you have to go back in, whether that's through a representative or through you going into the portal yourself. You have to go back in and you have to change your NOC code. You don't have to change your occupation, obviously, but your occupation will be the same occupation, but it will have a different NOC code now. So you have to adjust your particular code so that it reflects the new one. Otherwise, you're never going to get accepted, offered an invitation to apply, because your NOC code is wrong. So you have to go in and change it, and it has to reflect this new 5-digit tier level.
We've got a link in the description box below explaining everything we've talked about today, and we've got plenty of videos elsewhere on the channel explaining Express Entry and previous NOC codes and how it all works, so check them out. And if you like what you're seeing, do us a big favour and hit subscribe, it really helps out. And we will see you next time.